All right, y'all. I'm very excited for my guest today. He and I do not know each other, so this will be a great conversation. I'm assuming he'll get to know me a little bit and you will get to know him. I have been following Cody. So just so you know, Cody, I've been following you probably for about a year now, and I don't know how the algorithm worked. I think you're into golf, right?
I'm a big golfer, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for some crazy reason, my algorithm, even though I stopped playing professional golf years ago, my algorithm still shows me all the golf stuff. And then I guess I got the thing that I'm definitely into now is like the mindset and the habits and becoming who you are. And there was one video that you talked about, like just having the clarity and the confidence. And that's something that I've been talking about for like 7 or 8 years. And so I just immediately sent a message to your team and you shot me over to Michaela, and here we are today. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, it's kind of a little life transformation stuff that, I kind of got into the last few years, and just like journaling, mental health, things like that. And coming from a small town of 30 people in Montana, you don't really pay attention to that type of stuff, at least not when I was a kid. So just something that I think that's valuable now.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the audience would love to know, you went from a small town in Montana. How did you become so successful? Obviously, you've exited from a few companies. You now are the owner, creator of skyMD, a hydration company. You've had so many kind of career transitions along the way. How did that come about, being from a town of 30 people in Montana?
Yeah. So, I mean, my dad was an entrepreneur, and even, when I was in high school, I kind of, like I'd chop firewood and resell it. And I've just kind of always been in that entrepreneurial mind. And like even when I was in high school, I was the guy that sold stereo speakers. So I would go to the town, it's about an hour away, Missoula. And I kind of made friends with the guy that owned the stereo shop there. And, I would buy them for a pretty low price from him. Then I'd resell them to my friends in school and other surrounding towns and stuff like that. So I think that my dad had a big influence on that. And I kind of found out early on, high school, not like right once I get into college, that I wasn't the best employee. So I just figured I kind of need to do it my own way.
Awesome. Was there I've talked about this on my podcast. There's been certain situations in myself and my husband's life that were kind of like those aha moments, like as a kid, where I was like, oh my God, I never want to be in this situation. Like my husband came from absolute nothing. And he tells a story about how his parents told him he couldn't have these Michael Jordan shoes back in the day. My husband's 50, but these Michael Jordan shoes back in the day. And that was like his like moment in time where he's like, I will never be told I can't have anything ever again. And that's what kind of obviously transitioned to him, how successful he is today. And for myself, there was like those little moments in time. And I'm sure a lot of people listening, that there are those moments that you're just like, I will never fucking do this. And how do I have a different life?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, after I played college football at the University of Montana, I got hurt, which kind of went through an array of injuries. And then the only reason I wanted to go to school is I was a terrible student. If I walk into like even a school today, I get nauseous. That's how bad I hate school. I don't know why. I just always have. I cheated my way through high school, through the little bit of college that I did go to. I just did not want to be there. It didn't interest me. I didn't care. I knew that I was learning, not really learning because I was not really going to a lot of classes, but what they were trying to teach me wasn't applicable to, what I really needed to be learning and what I wanted to do, which was own a business or start something. I wasn't really sure at the time, but after I dropped out, I went to North Dakota. I worked on the oil rigs. It was hot in Montana. Like, it was a really good paying job. You work 6 months out of the year, you get 6 months off. A bunch of my friends are doing it, so I did that, and I did that for like probably 6 or 8 months. And I just kind of networked while I was there. And my dad owned a logging company, so we had semis and a bunch of equipment, and that's kind of what we did. My grandparents owned a sawmill, so we would haul the logs to to his parents' sawmill, and all my uncles did that. So that our entire family was, either working in sawmill or sawmills or, loggers. So I kind of befriended this guy that was hauling crude oil, and they just had semis and tanker trucks that ran them from the oil pads to the refineries. And I got us a job doing it. And I talked my dad into, bringing some of the semis over to North Dakota to start hauling crude oil. And so we eventually got to, 6 trucks hauling crude pretty much 24/7. Just him and I, and we had, a lot of his guys that were hauling logs came over. And then we did everything from reclamation to the pads, so like when the oil rigs leave, we make them pretty again, build roads, plant seed, kind of. So over time, it kind of just looks like they weren't there again. And did that for like 6 years or so. And we kind of bounced around. We started in North Dakota, went to Colorado, was in Texas for like 3 years. And when they told us, the contract is up, we need to move back to Colorado, I told my dad, I was like, I'm done doing this. Like, I don't want to be a truck driver for the rest of my life, or, a mechanic and, work on stuff. Obviously, it's what I grew up my whole life doing. So my uncles, my dads, what everybody that I know, that's all they do is they're blue collar workers and either run machinery or driving trucks or, some type of manual labor. Right. And I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be 40 years old. Nothing against people that do that. Just me personally. I've felt that I was destined to, do something different, and kind of not that many people leave Montana that are there. They're just kind of scared of leaving their little bubble. And especially my family, like all my family's still back in Montana. I'm the only one that's ever left. Maybe one cousin, I think. And I have a big family. Like my dad has 3 brothers and 3 sisters. So, and they all have tons of kids, and those kids have kids. So, I moved back to Arizona.
Stop you there just for a sec, because I think this is really going to resonate. How did you know deep inside of yourself, or what was it inside of you that kind of went against the norm? Because one of the things that I believe to be true is that we all have these like patterns, stories, habits from family. And if we want something different, we're going to have to be the people who actually like change that. I've had those situations with a couple things in my life that I was like, I literally will, like, I love my parents. They're great people. I'm assuming your family's very much the same, but it's like, there's something deep inside a certain person that is like, I will be the person to fucking change this. What was that in you? Or like, what do you think that you had that perhaps others who are afraid don't have?
Yeah. I mean, I think like for me particularly, like it was, it was always me and my dad, like, kind of people, and this could have been just, my subconscious or whatever. This might not even been a thing, but it was always like, I couldn't do anything without my dad, or, it was, like eventually one day you got to get off the tit, and like, you know what I mean? That kind of just like that. And then also at the same time, I just, really looked at like, when I was, this is when I was like, 25, 26, right? I'm 36 now, but when I was, 35, 40 years old, do I want to be doing this? Because if you don't, like, and if you get that old, like the older you get, obviously, it's harder to make a change. Then you got kids and you got just other obligations and stuff like that. And I didn't have anything. So I just kind of really looked at myself and where I wanted to go and what I didn't want to be doing.
Yeah.
So.
I just think it's so brave, because there's just so many people like this name of this podcast, my whole brand is Decide It's Your Turn. And it's just like, to me, it's just truly a decision. A decision isn't something that's kind of like wavered on depending on your circumstances. And it seemed like you were just really clear that like, this is not what I want to do. So I'm willing to figure out whatever the heck I have to figure out in order to get something different.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, my mind is expanded on like this type of stuff a lot more than it was at that time. It was pretty, surface level at the time of just like, all right, well, I don't want to be driving trucks for the rest of my life. I don't
And
want to.
you probably had a shit ton of cash at the time too, because I'm originally from Alberta, Canada. So I moved to Arkansas to play college golf. So I know the rig life. I know you guys are fucking banking.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we made a lot of money. It was good. And then, but when I moved back to Scottsdale, I just didn't do anything for a while, and I fucking blew all my money and, partying and being a dipshit. Till I was pretty much like, all right, dude, you gotta really buckle down here if you're gonna do something. So I didn't really handle that the best way that I should have. I would have been in a much better position, but to each in their own.
I think honestly, there's probably, and I used to think that too way back in the day, but I think that there's probably such an area for someone to jump in and educate like young men, most particular men who make a lot of money in their 20s on actually how to keep it and invest it. Because all you do is like you're making shit tons of money and then you come home for you're on 2 weeks, off 2 weeks, and it pretty much evens itself out. You can blow a shit ton of money in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would go to like the Buckle and spend like every time I got home, I'd buy like $1,000 and $1,200 in new clothes. And for me at the time, that was crazy. That was a lot of money to just be blowing. And yeah, you get home and you just literally spend all of your money that you just made, and then you go back to work.
It's such a cycle. It's so true.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what
you're just moving sideways. You think you're doing really good, but you're moving sideways.
exactly. I think about that as like professional athletes. I grew up around a lot of hockey guys. My dad, my uncles both played NHL level hockey. And I remember just thinking about like all of those guys who make, even still today, I mean, unless you're educated on finances, it's so easy to think this money is going to last forever.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it really is. Like if you kind of go out and just look at the macro of it and kind of see what your burn rate is. I mean, and look at it like that, it's a little more scary than people actually realize.
Exactly. So once you decided that you weren't going to stay with your dad, you moved to Arizona. And what was that? What was that like then?
Yeah, so I like I said, I was a degenerate and partied with a bunch of my friends for months and didn't really do much. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I was always into health and fitness, even when my dad and I were like in North Dakota together. I would cook always meal prep, cook us healthy food, stuff like that. So I was going to start a meal prep company, and my buddy had payment processing company. He's like, well, why don't you just come work for me for a little bit and see how you like that or whatever. And I was there for 2 months. First month was just kind of learning stuff, and the second month I was the top salesman in the company. And immediately at that point, I was just like, I'm just too good to be doing this. And I literally quit the next day. And I started a meal prep company called Body Fuel, and I started cooking meals illegally out of my apartment kitchen. Um, I had a couple friends that played for the Arizona Cardinals at the time, so they helped out a little bit, just getting, help me get like
Promote
some
it.
of the football guys and promote it. But so I started, like 8 meals a week, 16 meals a week, 10 meals a week. And then we got it up to two retail locations and like 2,000 meals a week. So I was working the store and I was bartending at night to help, fund the business. I just bartended at like this country bar, and I'd make, $300-400 a night or something. And then I'd use some of that money to buy food and, whatever. But it wasn't until probably 8 to 10 months into the business where I even got a kitchen. I mean, I had coolers, so I'd cook all the meals and I'd put them in coolers, or I would take all of the food out of my fridge and put it in a cooler to put the meals in there before I went and delivered them and stuff. And that's just kind of how I did it.
I'd love to kind of talk on this because I know you talk a ton on this now. And I mean, I have a lot of people who listen to this podcast who want to do the thing that they say they want to do in this world. And for me, I think one of the things that people do the most, and tell me if you feel like this is true, but like they think about it and they keep thinking about it and they're thinking of all the things that they need to do to prepare to actually do it. But the thing that I'm hearing you say, and that I believe 100% the truth, is that you just have to take action and figure it out along the way. If you would have waited for the perfect, everyone's always like the logo, the website, the perfect kitchen, and all of the bullshit that, like, in my personal opinion, does not matter. You have to start actually taking action. But can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did you know how to do that? Or like, what was it in you that figured that out?
Yeah, so I absolutely knew nothing, to be honest. I knew what a good healthy meal tasted like. I was always pretty decent at like, creating a brand, like logos, stuff like that. I was pretty savvy with like all of the logos for my brands, that, we currently have, I've done really. And, I think, and even like logo website, stuff like that, that's just not really even important. It's just about, you're going to learn. The problem is with not doing the thing and thinking about the thing is you just constantly are spinning your wheels about the thing on, what do I have to do? How am I going to do it? Instead of just actually starting it and doing it, because you're going to learn way more while you're doing it, because you're going to run into problems and then you're going to have to overcome that problem. And then you're going to run into another problem. And you're going to have to overcome that problem. And you're never going to know about that problem unless you start to go and figure out what the problem is. Right. So for, for me personally, everything was a learning curve. Even when I opened a retail location, like I had to get permits and I had to do all this stuff with the city that, I had no idea what it was, but I had to talk to the health inspectors and figure out, what permits I needed, what the kitchen needed to look like, and so on and so forth, to be able to, do the smoothies and the healthy meals in there. And I would have never ever known unless I just was actually going through the process, because you're never going to know what problems are going to arise. And there's going to be a bunch of them that you don't even think about, that you think, that they're going to pop up. But the ones that you think about, are probably really easy to overcome versus what's actually going to happen. And you're never going to be able to figure that out unless you just get up and do it.
Yeah. Were you into like personal development and mindset work like when you started your meal prep company, Body Fuel, or was that like a journey in itself? Because I think like so many people just like tell themselves they're doing it wrong and that they can't do it and like what's wrong with them? No one else has these problems, just all the mindset bullshit that we all have.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, so I'm a huge guy on negative inner dialogue. That's a silent killer for everybody, right? So I have two parts here. So going back to your question, when I was back then, I wasn't really that big on um, self improvement and stuff. I personally wanted to get better, and I wanted to grow, and I wanted to be successful. Yes, but I wasn't like reading a bunch of books and consuming content and making content about it, and really like trying daily to become better in all aspects of my life. But I just knew I wanted to become and live a better life than I currently had. So subconsciously, I guess I kind of was doing that, but not really like really focused on that. Um, and I lost my train of thought on the second part I was going to say, but
Just what kept you going?
yeah, I mean, it was all just a stepping stone for me of, you know, starting it out of the apartment to finally getting a commercial kitchen to um, the apartment that I was actually renting was going to evict me because I was putting all the money into the business and I wasn't paying my rent. And so he, it, I kind of had so I don't know what happened, but when I got the eviction notice that he was going to evict me if I didn't pay rent, I just kind of mentally prepared, like, all right, I'm going to put all my clothes in my car. I'll sleep in a cot in the little store. The store was like 350 square feet. And I will just wake up in the morning, I'll shower at the gym, and I'll work at the store, bartend at night, and I'll figure it out. And so when I went into that mindset shift, it just things kind of just started, working and flowing. Maybe a little luck came my way, I'm not sure, but my back was against the wall and I didn't really have an option. It was either, fail and sleep in the store till I couldn't pay that rent, or I was going back to Montana.
I love that because I do think that it's true. I think we all have to get to this point. Are you a person of faith at all?
Yeah.
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 For
Yeah.
me, like I'm a huge faith person. And I truly believe like sometimes when we tell God we want something, we have to jump without like the actual parachute and just be like, I trust you. I'm going to figure this the fuck out. Like, I just
Yeah.
know that I have to do something. Cause if not, like, there's no other option. Failure just is not an option.
Yeah. And I mean, like a lot of people look at failure too, like
As a
negative thing, like it's a negative thing when really it's not. It's actually a positive thing. Like, that's, failure has a pretty bad negative stigma around it just due to the fact of, oh, I fail. Like you fail. So that means you're done. It's not, you're not done. That's just a lesson to not do it next time. And, the more failures you have, the more that you're going to grow and be able to build.
Yeah. I did a speech this week to a bunch of executives and I said that exact same thing. We just have such a negative connotation on it. So Body Fuel, you got it up and running and then you had this opportunity come into your lap that has, at this point in time, I'm assuming your biggest success?
Yeah.
I would think so, but do you want to kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, so one of my best friends was in the THC space at the time, and he had one of the first. He opened the first 24-hour dispensary in Las Vegas, and so he had like Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg, like all these guys, that he was as what they would call influencers now. They weren't called influencers back then, but essentially that's what they were. And I just kind of looked at the market, and I started doing THC products as well, like gummies and pre rolls and stuff like that. And the reason why I even got into it is because I had terrible like sleep apnea. Like I couldn't sleep. So I started taking gummies at night to sleep. I could go to sleep. I actually got a good night's sleep. So I was an advocate on, it actually helping people to go to sleep, not taking it all day and getting high and walking around like a zombie, but for sleep purposes, essentially. And as I got into that business, I kind of looked at the CBD market, and I just saw that it was trending dramatically faster, and you could ship products nationwide as long as they had 0.03% THC. So I started PureKana with $5,000 and ordered some product and just kind of bootstrapped it from there. Found an SEO partner that could help push traffic. Like you can do traditional advertising, you can do paid media, you can advertise on Facebook, Instagram, you can do any of that. So you had to basically, I had some blogs that would write articles about the brand and like top 5 CBD brands of 2017 or whatever, right? And mine was at the top and the best, and it did really well for the longest time. You can't do this now, but if you typed in CBD, my brand would show up at the top.
How did you know how to do that? Because I think that's brilliant. I just, there was an article back in 2020 where I was voted one of the top coaches, and it was like honestly a God thing because like I didn't even fucking rate it, but it was just like someone wrote it and like I was featured in it or whatever. I'm the only person on that list still to this day that's actually still a coach because everyone fucking changes their title every 3 days. But yeah, the SEO part of it is absolutely brilliant. We do that actually with this podcast. We SEO keywords in titles, and I think it's brilliant. I just don't think enough people know that.
Yeah, no, they don't. I mean, it is, the landscape is changing a little bit, just with how Google operates. Like people can't rank for CBD anymore. Like if you type that up, it's just a bunch of articles about like educational articles about CBD instead of brands. So they've changed a lot of stuff like that. But I think for me, it was just a stroke of hard work and some luck, to be honest. I had these guys reach out to me. They found me on social media, and they were getting screwed over by another CBD brand that they were helping them, push traffic and write articles and stuff like that. And these guys weren't paying them.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, I'll pay you. And
fuck yes, I'll pay you.
So, that relationship just kind of started that. And then we did 40 million in sales in the first 30 months.
Wow. That is incredible. That is so cool. What are some of the lessons that you learned during that first year in business? Because I'm sure it wasn't all like, sunshine and roses. I'm sure like when everyone always thinks like there's no downside to scaling that fast. That's a lie. What were some of those?
Yeah. So for instance, for one, so we were starting to scale, and, payment processing, you usually have caps on your payment processing accounts. And so I think ours was like 100,000 or something at the time. And we were constantly trying to, press that up, and they couldn't press it up fast enough. And so they stopped processing our money. And then we had a bunch of customers ordering, and then we were running low on inventory. And I had another company at the time called Body Pros, which it was the whole idea of it, I never really got off the ground because I got just too busy with this other thing. But the whole preface around it was basically, it was an app, and for every exercise, it would have a video for it. Like there's a bunch of them out there now, but this was 2016. There wasn't anything out there about it. And it was $1 a day. So it was $30 a month, and you could pick out what type of workouts you wanted to do. And then it would have, a list of the workout, and it would show you a visual of, every exercise being demonstrated. So you could just do it on the go anytime. And it was just, mobile. So they shut off our processing, and we had, they locked up like $100,000. And at the time, like that was all of that money needed to be made for inventory. And another crazy thing about the CBD industry, like the margins were so crazy. Like 1,000 milligram this tincture I would sell for $149, and it would cost me 12.
Holy shit.
So
unreal.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was, like I said, God and
License to print money.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So what I did was, I started using Body Pro's processing, masking transactions for the CBD brand. And if I didn't do that, the brand was going to die. You're going to have a bunch of pissed off customers. We're not going to be able to buy inventory. We couldn't get another processing account. So I had this one already done, set up. So I just made the decision to, to do it, which is, again, not really a legal thing, but I did it. So I made that decision. It's not like you go to prison or anything over it, but I wasn't doing anything illegal. It's just, I think more, it's definitely frowned upon.
Yeah, for sure. So that was one of the things that kind of happened along the way. A lot of people talk about the ability. You know how I first heard about this? I don't know if I guess we're only like, 6 or 7 years apart, but Oprah was one of the first people that really kind of started talking about how people were running low on product. And so even for yourself, was that one of the big issues that you had, or did you have was keeping stock like not an issue?
Yeah, I mean, we stayed on top of it pretty good. But I already knew a bunch of people in the space just from the THC side of things. And my buddy was, he's one of the top THC guys in the country. So I met a lot of, very notable people through him. So I had a lot of connections in the space, just with manufacturers and stuff like that. So I didn't really run into too many issues, necessarily with that. But it was more along the lines of, just us continue to keep the foot on the gas pedal and trying to scale. At one point, I mean, I had half of the UFC roster that
Wow.
was, representing the brand, like John Jones, Sugar Sean O'Malley, and a bunch of those guys. And so my whole thing and what I'm trying to replicate with skyMD is, so made Pure Kana basically it was the cool brand in CBD, right? So everybody wanted to use, the products that those guys are doing. So now we have a bunch of, we just brought on 2 trainers. One is Nick Hill from Exos. Exos is everywhere, but he trains all the guys for the NFL Combine. He's got a bunch of, he just had the guy clock the fastest 40. I think it was last year. And then we brought on Melvin Sanders, a guy that owns Sanders Fit from Dallas. And he trains like Wembenyama, Derrick Henry, and a bunch of, NFL, NBA professional athletes. So kind of taking the same approach with skyMD as I did Pure Kana, but just in a little bit different way of, being able to get that product into the pro athlete's hands and, make it the cool brand that's actually beneficial for you instead of everything else that's out there in the market.
Yeah. So when you sold Pure Kana, was that a big shift for you? Because I think everyone always thinks when you exit for all this money, and I think I know your kind of mindset around this because I've followed you for such a while, and I like your videos in the fact that you talk really about the lifestyle, the rich lifestyle. I'm a huge fucking proponent of this. The stuff is all amazing, and you get to a point where you're super comfortable is wonderful. I would never give that up. I'm not that person to be like, money doesn't matter, bitch. I love it. But all of this, but I also believe that it's so much more than that. So you exited Pure Kana. Did anything kind of really change for you, or what kind of did shift for you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was kind of lost for a little bit. I had some other side projects going on, like a golf apparel company that was just kind of a cactus hack. I just,
I saw that in your bio.
Yeah. Yeah. So me and my buddies, just, kind of, made this brand. I just wanted to wear my own golf clothing and stuff. So that's more of just like a hobby of just, something that nothing I was like trying to scale and, get rich on. So I had just like some side little projects like that, but nothing that I really like could dive into that I was just like super pumped about. And if I was pumped about it, it wasn't very long. So I was just kind of like lost and not really sure what, what I wanted to do, what the next steps was, or, you know, um, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to explain that, you're just working on something and then it's almost like a breakup,
Yeah.
like, don't talk to this person anymore, like when you talk to them every single day for, years and then it's go. So it's just, and with the business, I think, um, being apart from it for a while is just a lot different. I didn't really think also of, what life would be like after I sold it or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine, whatever. Um, I kind of, I'm glad I did, but glad that I didn't also in a way. I kind of, what I know now about business and I would have rather kept onto the cash flow than selling it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I interviewed a gentleman. Do you know what YPO is? Young
Yep.
Presidents. Okay, so my husband's a YPO member, and I've had a few YPOers on this podcast. And I had one gentleman who has sold 3 companies for 9 figures, and he talked a lot about that. How it's like it's kind of like that. I see you have a Purdy jersey behind you. It's kind of like when you win the Super Bowl. It's not like winning the Super Bowl is amazing, but it's like every single solitary moment that took to win the Super Bowl. And that's the way that he kind of described it. And I feel like so many people that I've talked to over the years that have exited for a substantial amount, it's almost like you said, it's like that breakup. It's like, what is until you find that next thing, it's not as amazing as everyone says. Like most people will say, I will fucking take the money. But at the same time, too, it's like the mental part of it.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, yeah, your bank account changes obviously, which is great. But, for me now, I'm such a big proponent of freedom and living life on your terms instead of, working for somebody that you hate for 40 years to, you know, build their dream when you should just probably build your own.
Amen.
Um, so, for me, I just would rather go that route of, doing my own thing. A lot of people can't seem to get over that hump of, having confidence in themselves to try something new because they're afraid to fail, which, you don't really know how much time you got left on this planet. And a lot of people also are really worried and consumed about what, other people are going to think of them when they're so consumed with their own chaos and bullshit in their own lives that even if they think something about you for a second, it's going to be gone 2 more seconds and then they're worried about their own bullshit again. So I think, the easier and the faster that people could grasp at that, the happier that they'll be.
Amen. Preach it. So how did you found skyMD? And you guys, skyMD, I've got it right here on my desk. My husband and I have been drinking it, and I'm very grateful. Jesse's company sent us a few. I don't even know if you know this. Cody's company, your marketing agent or whoever it is, Jesse, sent us a few bags for an event I'm hosting in a couple of weeks. But I've been using it now for a while. So how did skyMD come about?
Yeah. So me and a couple of my buddies were, um, drinking. It was during COVID, so we were, golfing a lot, and we were drinking Drip Drop, Liquid IV, and thinking that these are healthy products for you, kind of just like everybody else. And we kind of dove into it, reverse engineered their products, everything that's in it, and found out that you know every one of these products out there is 70% sugar and 90% salt. Like Liquid IV, the stick is 10 grams, as 7 of the 10 grams is sugar. Um, LMNT, same thing. It's flavored salt water. That's all it is. It's salt. They got a couple trace vitamins in there, and then add some flavoring into it. They'll have artificial sweeteners, or they'll also use sucralose. So we decided to take a doctor approved approach. I'm friends with Dr. Rick Ambrosic. He's Rob Gronkowski's doctor and does some cells for a bunch of athletes and celebrities. So we decided we're going to create a doctor approved electrolyte that has 6 key electrolytes, 12 vitamins and minerals, and 1,300 milligrams of electrolytes. And we also use a unique ingredient called Aquaman, which is the most bioavailable form of magnesium that you can put into your body. It's off the Irish coast. So we went through, it took a long time to launch this, to be honest. So we went through like a year of R&D, flavor profiles, how many vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, stuff that we wanted to get into it, getting, the food chemist, the doctor behind it to approve the formulations. And then we just kind of hit the ground running from there.
That's awesome. I love that. One of my clients right now, she's bringing something to market, and it's been over 2.5 years. And there has been like, I'm just so blessed to feel like I've kind of been behind the scenes of it. And it is just such a mindset journey more than anything else. And I feel like anyone listening to this who's tried to bring like an actual product to market, it probably feels that. So it took you over a year to bring this to market. Along the way, has there been any like lessons that you want to share, or how you're just like, yes, there's a million, do we have time?
Yeah.
But mindset wise, like, was there any time that you're like, fuck this, it's not worth it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it took us the first year of doing the R&D stuff to get the original uh, one that we launched, actually. I'll so I keep this in here for just reference, but so this
Yeah.
is this is the original one that we actually launched.
Okay.
And so when we first wanted to do it, we actually wanted to call it Cloud9. And it turns out that there was a trademark infringement or something, so we couldn't do it. But after we came up with skyMD and got that all done, we did the first round. It was just kind of like a small round, and ran into a manufacturing problem. We paid the guy for the full invoice, $80,000, I think it was, and he gave us half the order, and we sold out the first half, and we're like, all right, where's the rest of our inventory? And he didn't have it.
Oh.
So he like didn't make it or whatever. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm making it now. And then he starts sending us stuff, and like the sticks are different. Like the product just didn't look right to us. So I don't know. We didn't know what was in it. Like if it wasn't our same product or anything like that. So we just stopped operations again for, until the end of, so we relaunched last November, and we're like, all right, fuck this. We're redoing everything. We're getting a new manufacturer, new packaging. We're doing a complete redesign of the brand, fresh start, like, kind of doing it right. And so we redid everything. We relaunched last November before we got to filling this last run before the relaunch, which I consider that's the real launch of the company, to be honest, last November.
Mhm.
Just because the first, year and a half or whatever, it was an absolute shit show, just of not necessarily figuring out what we wanted to do, but it's more of like the bullshit we went through, the manufacturing and, stealing money and, things of that nature. But, we were getting ready to fill our sticks for this last run in our doctor. So it says doctor approved on top of our bags, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And we had doctor formulated. We wanted doctor formulated. So we printed all the packaging for all of everything that we,
One word difference.
Yeah, one word. And my buddy, that's the doctor, he's like, oh yeah, everything's good to go, no problem, whatever. So I'm like, all right, cool. We order the packaging. We're literally getting ready to fill everything. And his attorney comes in and says, you can't say formulated. It has to say approved. And I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Like, this is going to push us back another like 4 months, because we have to eat that $50,000 in packaging and reorder all new packaging over one fucking word. So, a lesson in there is, I could say, we kind of jumped the gun and, but I mean, I got his word, and, that's kind of how I operate, to be honest. I've changed that a lot now of, all right, you said it's good. Here's the contract, whatever, push it out. Like, I'm not dealing with any of this backtrack bullshit anymore. So, those were a couple hard lessons that we had to learn. And that's just kind of in this space. Like, that's the second packaging too that we had. Like, we had to ditch around on the first round too. So there's been some packaging problems, unfortunately, but I think we got it finally ironed out.
Awesome. Well, I think that's just so interesting and it's so helpful. It's like almost like permission giving for that person behind the scenes who just thinks that they're doing it all wrong. Because I can't imagine, I'm sure maybe you've thought about this, maybe you haven't, but I just always think about, because I've talked to hundreds of people over the years, and I just think about all those amazing either products or services or people that have really thought of amazing things that could really help people in this world that have never come to fruition because they had the wrong word or they had the wrong package or it took too long. And I just love hearing the stories from people who have actually kept going and now putting a product that's actually helpful instead of just dumping a bunch of, basically Kool-Aid. When we were kids, that's what everyone drank. And it's basically what you're paying $12 a box for nowadays. So it's nice to know that something like this does exist. So I'd love to know from you, just like to kind of cap this off, like, how did you start really wanting to put your own personal brand out there? Is that in conjunction with skyMD, or is this something else that you've just loved sharing your kind of thoughts and processes?
Yeah. So to be honest, my social media is just kind of just built on, I mean, I used to hang out with Dan Blazarian a lot, and that
My husband used
maybe,
to follow him a long time ago. I
yeah.
know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, I got I would call it notoriety or whatever, but people just, followed me because I was hanging out with him or whatever.
Okay.
And so my entire social media was just kind of like lifestyle stuff. Like
Yeah.
I post pictures on cool stuff that I do. Right.
Watches, cars, girls,
Yeah.
all the fun things that gets you a follow.
Wherever I'm traveling to,
Yeah.
or, whatever. And I kind of, and this is actually a pretty recent mind shift. In the last like year and a half or so, I've been wanting to do it for a long time. Just putting more content and stuff out that maybe would help people. But like I do a newsletter now, and I turn that newsletter into a YouTube video every week. And I might fire back up my buddy Matt that owned was a good influence on me with the THC side of stuff. We used to have a podcast called Homegrown Hustlers, and
Cool.
but when he moved to Miami, and so then we stopped. But we might just do it kind of like
Y'all
this.
need to do it, because I'll be honest with you. You guys need to check out Cody's YouTube channel. I was with my husband and I walk every night. Like, we're big, self-improvement people, and we've done all the things. I see that you follow Andy Frisella. We've done 75 Hard a few times and all the things.
Yeah.
But your podcast is The Infinite Game. And I was just playing a clip when we were supposed to record this a couple of weeks ago. I was like, babe, listen to this. I'm going to interview this guy tomorrow. And he's like, that's fucking awesome. Like, I love that. And so thank you for doing that. And I want you guys to go listen to Cody's YouTube channel. I'm a bit more of a listener than a reader, so I probably wouldn't see the blog, but I love the fact that you just basically like read the blog on the YouTube.
Yeah. It's and then I'm probably just gonna I'll put that onto, Spotify or something too, so people can just listen when they're driving or whatever. But yeah, I mean, just different forms of being able to put it out there. But it was kind of it was something to really get me to actually do it. Like, I've always wanted to do it, but it was just kind of this mind shift for me. Like, all right, I want to, and it's not like recreating myself, for instance, but it's just kind of who I am to my core, and what I'm basically like things that I'm learning. I'll learn, and then I'll talk about them. Kind of whether it's, week to week, or things that I thought about in the past that, kind of come up that I talk about, and kind of do it that way. But it was tough to get me to start doing it. Just because if I had it my way, I would be completely off the grid. So I'm kind of doing it for, to help people. And then also, maybe eventually down the line, people will be like, oh, well, what's this guy about? What's he do? And then they'll stumble upon skyMD and be like, oh, this guy's also has this company, and kind of just like a trickle effect. And I think I'm probably going to start doing like a mentorship or something, just small scale, like handful of people. I don't want to, got asked a lot about that in the past. Just doing mentorship for people. And I've always said no, because I don't want to take somebody's money if I can't, I should be able to give them value and help them.
Well, you definitely should, because I take people's money all day long to give them value and they fucking love it. And it fills my soul so huge. So I totally think that you should. And you guys, I really would love for you to go and follow Cody. His, obviously, you're your platform has evolved. It's not so much the party now. However, if you do scroll back, you can see all of the party and famous people that I do not know. But check out the Infinite Game your YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the email list. Be sure to get if you're watching this over on YouTube, the skyMD hydration. We have the lemon lime here today, but thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story. And I really do hope you keep it going because I enjoy it and I love randomly finding you. And yeah, it's helpful.
Perfect. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and we'll have to do it again soon.